Alright, so we're going to be installing this Belltech 965 SP on the 2017 Ram 1500 4x4. This is the kit. Like I said, it's the 965 SP. This is what you get whenever you open up the box. You have the rear springs, front shocks, rear shocks. You have a kit with all the bolts and the links and stuff. Your protective bumpers there. These go on the front to help with the mounting of the springs. Now this plate, this is only for, I believe, 2013 trucks. This is for making a cut. On my truck of 2017, this will not actually be being used, this plate. It's a little bit more work involved with putting this all up in there. I'll get you the right year of truck that this was before. But that's what that is. So, all right, let's go ahead and get started on putting this in. We're going to do the front first. All right, so the first thing we're going to be doing is let's get the truck up on jack stands, get the front tires off, get the inner fender the inner fender liner off there, and then we'll be able to see a lot more what's going in to get this taken care of. So go ahead and get that stuff done, and then we'll get to the next part. Okay, so here we are with the tire removed. So then the next step, what you're going to want to do is take off the 8mm bolts to get this inner fender liner out here. So you have some around the outside, plus you have one there and one there at the top. Then you're also going to need a fastener removal as well. And then you got a fastener over there, and then one up towards the front of the vehicle right over here. So get those removed and get the fender liner off. And then we'll proceed with the next step. Okay, now while you're pulling out the inner fender well, the liner here, you're going to note that there's a clip that's clipped in, a harness that you're going to want to remove as well. Now on the driver's side, there are two of them, but they're right beside each other. So just be aware that those are back there, so you're not, tearing anything and stretching cords. So go ahead and pull that out, and those just pop right out. And then you can free the liner, and we'll get taken off some of these components here. Okay, so let's get started with taking some things off. The first thing I'm going to be taking off is the caliper. Now, I tried to do this on the driver's side without taking the caliper off, and it just wasn't happening. Just to give you guys a side note, some people say that you can come back here and remove these bolts back here and drop it the other way. I really don't want to do that, just because you're gonna have to get, you have to get in alignment anyways. I just really don't feel like doing that method, because this way is not too bad, especially if you have some power tools. This Milwaukee impact wrench does a fantastic job of getting everything taken off. So let's get the caliper off. And the caliper is, you're going to want a 21mm. To get some more clearance back here, you can go ahead and just turn the wheel a little bit, so if you have an impact, you don't have to worry about use anything else. So there's the caliper. Let's hang this guy up. And it'll just pop right off. That should be good right there. So the next thing we're going to want to do is get the wheel back, so we have better access to everything. Might as well take the rotor off, because it's gonna want to fall out anyways, and if it's like mine, maybe yours will be frozen on there, so you don't have to bother with it. Alright, so let's get the control arm off here. So what you're going to want to use, find the right stuff here. Alright, so this right here, the upper arm here is a 21 millimeter, so that's what you're going to want to use. And then this little part to help you get that off, that is going to be 10 millimeter to hold that so you can get that spun off. And then it's going to be the same on the bottom here with the 21 and the 10. So I have a pass-through wrench. It helps out with some of the stuff, with some of the bolts that we're taking off. So let's go ahead and get this off. Sometimes you need the help of this wrench for the 10 millimeter side of it. Sometimes you don't. This one's trying to come off without needing the other one so far. Okay, so with that off, you're going to want to get a sledgehammer, smack this portion here to get this loosened up. There, you see it popped out, so we can just go ahead and pop that out. Okay, so what we can do next, we might as well get to the shock. Let's go ahead and get the shock unbolted. What you're going to want, I have my impact socket. It's a 15/16. I forget what the metric is, but the 15/16 for me fits the best. And then on the nut side of it, it's actually using a 13/16. Oh, I'm sorry, it's the bolt side. The nut side is 15/16. The bolt side is 13/16. So go ahead and get that on there. We can get this one spun off. Okay, now that we have that taken off, what I'm going to do is bring the jack over and support this, because what I'm going to do is take this off of the knuckle. And we're going to be getting close to getting this thing out of here. So let's get the jack. Just relieve some of that pressure that's building up. Should be all you need to do, because then what we're going to have to do is hit that nut out. We don't want too much pressure on there. Don't want to risk gumming up the threads on there. So let's get this top bolt out. And like I said, it was 21 millimeter. Let's see if it comes out. Nope. We're gonna have to hold that. Should be good. Okay, now you want to do the same thing. Get the sledge out. Tap it right here to get this to break loose. There we go. Okay, so it's about time to get the bolt out from the shock. So actually, you know what? Let's take the top bolts out. Let's do it a little bit different than I did last time. Let's go ahead and take the top bolts of the shock out. So you're going to want a 15 millimeter wrench. socket, whatever you want. And we're going to get these top bolts taken off. I think by doing it this way, it's going to be easier to get the bolt out that's holding the shock in. Okay, I just realized we didn't take this bolt out over here. This one's pretty simple on mine anyways. 15 millimeter sits right here, and then 16 millimeter at the top. Okay, so get that nut off. I'll get you guys some torque specs here. I'll post them up because I don't have them in front of me. Alright, let's go ahead and knock this bolt out. This is a shock bolt, obviously, so let's raise the jack up a little bit. Lowering it was the key there. Lowering it. Oh. If you get it just right, sometimes it'll just come out, but not this one. So, just gonna get a chisel or a file, a little punch, and just stick it in there. Hammer the bolt out, or get another bolt for that matter. It's an old chisel. Just put the blunt end in there and hammer it out. Okay, moment of truth. Let's see if I can get this sucker out. I'm gonna lower a jack to get me some more clearance, and we're going to push down a little bit. Okay, so what you're going to do is hold up on the shock, push down, and then that'll allow the bottom, if you can see, that'll allow the bottom enough clearance to get out, and then the shock will come out. So that's how you're going to want to do that, or else you're going to be fighting with that, trying to get it out. Some people do it the entire full way and remove the shaft here, but I really didn't want to do that. So that's going to be the best way to get that out if you don't want to do all that to get the shaft out. So, all right, now we got to go and get this compressed out. Okay, so this is probably going to be the hardest part for the DIYers. This is going to be compressing the strut, because what we need to do, you have to get this part off with the bolts on. That's the part that you need to transfer. This kit comes with all the other stuff. It even comes with another nut, but it doesn't come with the tower piece with the 3 bolts. So this I bought. It's the Power-Built Strut coil spring compressor. It's okay. I'm not going to sit here and say that it's the best thing in the world, but it, for what it is, for what I paid for it, I think it was like $170. It's nice because what I do is put the impact gun in the end here, and then you can compress it here right in this vise. Now when you're doing this, make sure you're going to want the tower piece, you're going to want it facing towards you. Okay, so get it settled in here as best as you can. Like I said, this isn't the best Now we're going to put, this has safety wire that it wants you to use with it, because this is no joke messing with these coils. If they uncompress and you have them real tightly wound, you know, they can kill you. So go ahead and get these safety pins in here. Just threads through the top, and then you just thread it through the coil just to kind of hold it in place in case it would uncompress somehow. It'll keep it from probably killing me, I guess. Okay, so you got it seated down in here. All you have to do is get the end of the impact wrench and get it compressed. All right, so we're good. You can see where it loosened up this part. So this is where, whenever I was telling you guys I have a pass-through wrench, this is where this comes in extremely handy. Okay, so if you have this pass-through wrench, that nut's an 18 millimeter down in, and then the end one is an 8. So you're going to want a small socket, because what you can do with the pass-through is put it on, and you can just slide that 8 millimeter right on. And it comes off pretty easy. I see guys trying to do this other ways. But if you just get the pass-through wrench, I think it was $20, maybe a little bit less. Okay, now that we have that off, it's good that they actually give you another nut, because this nut's seen better days. So first thing you're going to want to do, actually, all right, so before you go any further, what you're going to want to do is mark on here with this rubber piece. And now this is the point. These two kind of sit on the round ones. This is the point. So you're going to want to mark where this is in relation, so that when it goes on, you have it in the same spot. It's not a humongous deal. You can always see if it fits and then pull it back off. But all right, so this comes out. Keep these two sections you're going to want to keep. And then we're going to undo the compressor. Go ahead and get the shock out. And get your spring out. Before we get on to putting the strut assembly, shock assembly back together, I forgot to tell you guys, just so you know, when you do get this, you're going to get instructions that look like this. It's going to say for the 4 to 18 Ram 4-wheel drive, and it's going to say 0 to 2 inches of lift. Okay, don't get scared that that's not the right, they didn't send you the right stuff. This is what they sent, because what you have to do is when you get your shock, it's going to come with these little collars. That's for the lifting portion. When you don't add any of that, it's actually going to give you a 2-inch drop. So you can go ahead and get that freed up. And then, like I said, don't use any of those little collars, because those are for lifting. Also, you're going to have this little black piece right here. Do not remove that. Leave that there. That's required to be there for the installation. It just keeps dirt and stuff from getting down in there, so leave that there. Okay, so you have the shock. This is the shock holder down here. Fits in down at the bottom and just lock, kind of, it's free play on there. So here's your spring. Make sure the Belltech is pointing up. The Belltech logo is pointing up when you're putting it in. All right, let's go ahead and get it loaded in to the compressor. Okay, so once again, that's 18 millimeter on the end here and 8 on the little one inside. Okay, now we're ready to get it. We have it lined up properly with the marks. So let's go ahead and uncompress this. Okay. All right, so we got that off. Let's go ahead and go back and install it. Okay, so when you're putting it back in, so the point on the end, which is this point right here, that's going to actually face outwards when you put the shock in. So you're going to want to slide the shock up in. Okay, so you're going to slide it up in with that point facing outward. Okay, and then we should be able to get, by just putting a little bit of pressure, don't go crazy, but just by putting a little pressure down here on the hub, we'll be able to slide that back in, and then we'll be able to go from there. Okay, so the first thing you want to do after you get your shock seated in there is go ahead and get the bolt put in, because that's going to be the hardest thing to get. Make sure it's right. Okay, so after you're done getting the bolt in on the bottom, everything pretty much is simple. You just Get everything put back into place, jack it up, bolt it in. Got your 3 points here. Then get your caliper zipped on. And we're pretty much good to go. Don't forget about the 3 bolts on the top tower here. The liner put in, and you get the wheel on. So I'm not going to bother filming that. I will get you guys some torque specs for this, so you know what torque specs to be using. There's really no reason for me to shoot this part because it's just tightening stuff up. If I come across anything, I'll let you know, but shouldn't. It's all just bolting everything back up. So we got everything put in here, got everything tightened up. What I wanted to do is make another just a quick point before I get the tire put on. I have a 17 1500. This is the bump stop that comes with the kit. In 2017, I'm not sure what other years like before mine, but this bump stop, there's no place to put it, so don't, there is no, this doesn't get installed. So just so you know, this is for earlier trucks that have a place to put this bump stop. So if you're doing an install and you can't find a place to put it, there is no place to put it. So just so you guys know, in case you're doing this yourself. Okay, so here we are. We got the front done. I took it for a little drive. It feels pretty tight. It's a lot, it's stiffer than what the normal suspension is, but here it is with the front fully done, and you got the wheels on. Got about an 1.5 inch drop. I figure that's probably going to settle, so we'll be down to the 2 inch drop, in a little bit when it settles down. So now it's time to tackle the back side and get that nice 4 inch drop on there so that we see the full 2.4 completion.